Hello, in this video lecture, I discuss various qualitative tests for carbohydrates and also elaborate their basic chemistry behind these tests. Now, as we know, chemically, a carbohydrate is nothing but an aldehyde or a ketone derivative of polyhydric alcohol. Now, why the carbohydrate is known as aldehyde or a ketone derivative of polyhydric alcohol? This is because of presence of these aldehyde or ketonic functionality within their core structure, and due to presence of these aldehyde or ketone functionality in the carbohydrate along with number of or multiple hydroxy group, the carbohydrates are chemically known as aldehyde or ketonic derivative of polyhydric alcohol. And the presence of number of or multiple OH group in structure of carbohydrate, we generally called it as polyhydric alcohols. Now, being a biomolecule, carbohydrate plays number of important role in regulating various life processes. And anyhow, it is really a very difficult to judge, or it is really a very difficult to imagine life on earth without this biomolecule. So this is how the important, or this is what the importance of this biomolecule, that is carbohydrate, is in both plant as well as in animal kingdom. And also this carbohydrate molecule is important not only for plant and animal kingdom, but it is also a very essential biomolecule for growth and development of various microorganisms. So anyhow, generally the plants are well capable of synthesizing carbohydrate directly from sunlight, and the process we all know, that is the photosynthesis. So by photosynthesis, plants are able to synthesize carbohydrate. However, animals are not to such an extent capable of generating carbohydrate directly. Rather, they obtain the carbohydrate either from plant or from different food resources. And the basic carbohydrate in animal body, or basic regulating carbohydrate in animal body, is glucose. Now, under certain condition, this glucose is also synthesized in the body from non-carbohydrate resources. That is, the glucose can be generated under certain specific condition from proteins, as well as the glucose can be generated inside the body from lipids. And hence, as here in all these cases where the glucose is generated inside the body from non-carbohydrate resources, this process of generation or formation of glucose from non-carbohydrate resources is well known as gluconeogenesis. What it known as? It is known as gluconeogenesis. So anyhow, for pathological perspective, generally glucose is present in both extra as well as intracellular fluid inside the body, but its concentration is always normalized and it is well present within a particular limit which is not harmful for our body. However, in certain diseases, the concentration of glucose present in the blood gets exceeded their normal limit, and ultimately this exceed in the normal limit of glucose will causes very serious consequences. For example, diabetes mellitus. So this is a very common term, and we all know that diabetes is a metabolic disorder in which the blood sugar level get increases due to increase in the net concentration of glucose inside the blood, and sometime the net concentration of glucose increases, or the net concentration of glucose exceed beyond the normal limit in such a manner that it get excreted out through urine. Then the another condition, that is the galactosemia, which includes the increased level of galactose in the blood. Then fructosouria. So this involves the excretion of fructose in the urine. So all these are the conditions which are causes due to presence of non-required carbohydrate in the blood or urine. So anyhow, in this video lecture, I will discuss basically the various qualitative tests which are used in order to determine the presence of carbohydrate in a particular sample, and how these tests are be used in order to differentiate one carbohydrate from another. So these are the list of various tests which I am going to discuss and further elaborate their importance as a qualitative test for identification of carbohydrates, and I also discuss their chemistry and the basic reaction consequences which are responsible for for these tests in order to determine or identify the kind of or the nature of carbohydrate a sample contains. So generally, as we know, that the carbohydrates are classified accordingly as monosaccharides, disaccharides and polysaccharides. So all these tests are ultimately be used in order to differentiate these carbohydrates among each other, or also as well as these tests are also be able to distinguish the different carbohydrates within a category. So I also discussed that one also. Anyhow, in order for their qualitative importance, or in order to determine their importance in qualitative analysis of carbohydrates, this test includes the Mollis test. This is the very first one, which is also be known as alpha naphthol reaction, and it is known as the alpha naphthol reaction because the principal reagent used in this test is alpha naphthol, which is dissolved in ethanol in order to prepare the reagent for Mollis test. Then the second one is the Benedict test. Now this is the very common test, and we all know the Benedict reaction and why ultimately this reaction is important in order to determine the carbohydrate. and the third one is the Barfoed's test. So the Barfoed test is a very important test that it is used to differentiate monosaccharides from disaccharides. Both are the carbohydrates, but depending on their depending on the nature of hydrolysis product, this Barfoed test is able to differentiate a monosaccharides from a disaccharides. Then the rapid furfural test, and the next one is the Selinhoff's test. Then the sixth one is the Fowler's test. The seventh one is the OSA zone formation reaction. Then the OSA zone formation reaction involves the formation of OSA zone crystals, and on the basis of formation of OSA zone crystals, this particular reaction is used to differentiate the various disaccharides among them. Then the last one, that is the eighth test, is the iodine test, and this iodine test is used for the identification of polysaccharides, and also this test is used in order to determine or in order to differentiate polysaccharides from monosaccharides as well as from disaccharides. So all these are the list of tests which I am going to discuss further as a qualitative test for identification of carbohydrate in a sample. So I am going to discuss the very first test, that is the Mollis test, or it is also known as alpha naphthol reaction. And why this test is known as Mollis test, or why it is known as alpha naphthol reaction? Because this particular test makes use of Mollis reagent, which is prepared by dissolving alpha naphthol in 95% ethanol. So alpha naphthol in 95% ethanol is known as Mollis reagent, and because of the use of this particular Mollis reagent, this test is known as Mollis test. So anyhow, this test, as per procedure, this test makes use of Mollis reagent, and anyhow here, whatever the sample we are having, it is initially get mixed with the Mollis reagent, and once the Mollis reagent, few drops of Mollis reagent is added, then we have to add 3 ml of sulfuric acid, which is concentrated. So upon adding all these content to the sample, if the sample indicates appearance of violet or purple ring between the junction of liquid, this ultimately confirms that our test sample contains a carbohydrate. So it is necessary here to note down the color produced during this test, and appearance of violet or purple ring between the junction of two liquids will confirm the presence of carbohydrate. So as I am saying that this purple color or the violet or purple ring is formed between the junction of two liquid. So how this junction will form? This junction will form due to difference in the density of whatever the reagents we here added in this test. Since we are making use of this concentrated sulfuric acid, and the use of this concentrated sulfuric acid is ultimately responsible for the formation of junctions between the liquid, and this particular sulfuric acid is also responsible for the appearance of violet as well as or the purple ring appeared between the junction of the liquid. So generally how this purple or violet ring is formed in this Mollis test, or what is the basic chemistry behind this beyond this test is, or behind this test is, I'm going to discuss that one also here. This test anyhow once as we know that we are making use of the concentrated sulfuric acid in Mollis test, This concentrated sulfuric acid generally what it does, it cause dehydration of the carbohydrate, and it dehydrate the carbohydrate in order to form a heterocyclic ring, which is the furfural. So anyhow, when we are having a pentose sugar, or we are having an hexose sugar, so depending upon the what kind of sugar we are having, or depending upon the nature of carbohydrates that we are exposing for this particular test, uh, the different heterocyclic or the pentacyclic ring will form, and on the basis of this particular ring formation of this heterocyclic ring, we are getting the violet or the purple color or the ring between the junction of two liquid. For an example, if we are making use of pentose sugar, so upon addition of concentrated sulfuric acid, we are getting the furfural ring. And anyhow, if we make use of hexose sugar, and upon addition of S2SO4 in this case, due to the dehydration, we are getting the furfural derivative, that is hydroxymethyl furfural. So due to the formation of this pentacyclic heterocyclic pentacyclic ring, that is furfural or hydroxymethyl furfural, we are getting this particular violet or purple color ring, which is anyhow confirms the presence of carbohydrate in our sample. Sometime in Mollis test, rather than getting the routine violet or purple ring between the junction of two liquid, we are getting brown color, and the appearance of this brown color is due to the charring of sugar because of concentrated sulfuric acid. So in order to avoid this particular problem, that is appearance of brown color, we have to make use of appropriate quantity of concentrated sulfuric acid in the sample, and also whatever the sample we are using for the test, it must not be very much concentrated, and hence it is recommended to use dilute solution of carbohydrate, or it is recommended to make use of dilute solution in order to perform the Mollis test. And once we are optimizing both these parameter, that is we are making use of dilute solution of sample, as well as we are side by side making use of optimum quantity of concentrated sulfuric acid to perform the Mollis test, this particular problem, that is the appearance of brown color, will avoid it, and anyhow we will get the routine or the official violet or the purple color ring between the junction of two liquids. So this anyhow will ultimately confirms that our solution or the sample contains carbohydrate. So let us discuss the second test, that is the Benedict test. And this test is principally used for the analysis or identification of or reducing sugars. So anyhow, this Benedict test is used not only for qualitative analysis, but this test is also used for the quantitative estimation of reducing sugar present in a sample. And how this test identify presence of reducing sugar? This is due to this Benedict reagent. So as this test makes use of Benedict reagent in order to identify the carbohydrate or the reducing sugar, and that's why this particular test is also known as Benedict test. So chemically, the Benedict reagent is a combination of copper sulfate, sodium citrate, and sodium carbonate. So all these reagents ultimately constitute the Benedict reagent. And what is the purpose of all these reagent in Benedict, or these chemicals in Benedict reagent, is I'm discussing further. The copper sulfate, when dissociate, it yields the cupric ions in form of cupric hydroxide, which ultimately responsible for the blue color of Benedict reagent. So formation of this, or due to the presence of cupric ion in form of cupric hydroxide in the solution, will ultimately results for the blue color of Benedict reagent. Then this sodium citrate is act as a stabilizer, and it stabilize what? It stabilizes the cupric hydroxide in the solution. That is, it prevents precipitation of cupric hydroxide in the solution and keeps the cupric hydroxide well within the solution in a dissolved state. So this sodium citrate, it acts as a stabilizer, as it prevents the precipitation of cupric hydroxide or the cupric ions, which are present in the solution in form of cupric hydroxide in the Benedict reagent. Then this sodium carbonate will ultimately makes the solution alkaline. That is, it helps to maintain the Benedict reagent to have a alkaline pH. So these all are the function of these reagents or these chemicals in the Benedict reagent. So now I'm going to discuss the basic chemistry of this Benedict test. So as I said, that carbohydrates are the aldehyde or ketone derivative of polyhydroxy alcohol, and in carbohydrate moieties which contains free aldehyde or ketone group, or free aldehyde or keto group, such carbohydrates have a tendency or capacity to reduce the metallic ion, which is here is cupric ion. And these cupric ions are initially possess blue color, and once they are get reduced from cupric ion to cuprous ion in presence of or under the effect of alkali, these cuprous ions are responsible for red color. So once these cuprous ions are get precipitated, this precipitation of cuprous ion from the solution will responsible for the red color. So anyhow, this is the basic chemical background, or this is the basic chemistry perspective of Benedict test. So let us discuss the procedure involved in Benedict test. So in this test, the Benedict reagent is added to the sample, and the mixture is then heated on boiling water bath for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, the content is allowed to cool at room temperature, and during its cooling process, the red precipitates gets appear, which anyhow confirm the presence of carbohydrate in the test or in the sample. In some time also, or usually this red precipitate gets appear during the boiling, and sometime it gets appear after a while. Anyhow, whether this red precipitate appears during the boiling process or after the some time, the presence of this red precipitate or appearance of this red color indicates presence of carbohydrate in the sample. So anyhow, I am, since from the beginning of Benedict test and also in the chemistry of this particular test, I have emphasized more on the color, that is the red color or the brick red color. So anyhow, during this procedure or during the procedure of this Benedict test, it may be possible that rather than getting red precipitate or the red color, we can have different colors, or we can have appearance of colors other than the red color in the test. So this doesn't mean that appearance of color other than the red color, for an example, appearance of the blue color, appearance of green color, appearance of yellow color, appearance of orange color, all these colors will ultimately have a meaning in the test. For example, after boiling, if we get the blue color, that means if the sample, or if in the sample there is no change in the color, this indicates the negative test. So appearance of the blue color or no change in the color of the sample will ultimately makes our result negative. This indicates that our sample is not, our sample doesn't contain any sugar or the carbohydrate. However, appearance of the green color, yellow color, orange color, or a red itself I have explained. So appearance of this green color, yellow color, and orange color also gives an idea or also confirms the presence of sugar. But this appearance of this color is based or totally based on the net concentration of carbohydrate present in the sample. So how these colors are correlated with the concentration of carbohydrate present in the sample, I am going to elaborate this also. Uh, in a case if after boiling or the final outcome of the test is a green color, this indicates that the concentration of carbohydrate in our sample is 0.5 grams percent. However, if we are getting a yellow color as a final outcome, this indicates the presence of carbohydrate within a range of zero point 0.5 to 1 grams percentage. If we are getting orange color as a final outcome or as a result of our Benedict test, so this indicates the net concentration of carbohydrate in the sample is between the 1 to 2 gram percentage. And anyhow, or if we are getting the brick red color or the red color as a final outcome, so this indicates that our sample solution contains the net quantity of sugar is the more than 2 gram percentage. So accordingly, whatever the net concentration of our sample, or what is the net concentration of carbohydrate or the sugar present in our sample, we can get color other than brick red color, that is the green color, yellow color, and orange color. And all these colors are appear due to difference in the quantity or the net concentration of carbohydrate present in the sample. So I am going to discuss the next test, that is the Barfoed test. And this test is also principally based on the reduction type reaction. That is, the test is ultimately answered by only carbohydrates which are having the free aldehyde or the ketone group. So this test is exclusively be given by the monosaccharides, and hence this Barfoed test is used to differentiate monosaccharide from a disaccharide. So why this test is known as Barfoed test? This is because the reagent which ultimately we are using in this test, and the name of that reagent is the Barfoed reagent. So as this test makes use of Barfoed's reagent or Barfoed reagent, this particular test is known as Barfoed test. So chemically the Barfoed reagent is a mixture of copper acetate and acetic acid, and this mixture of copper acetate in acetic acid will constitute the chemical makeup of this Barfoed reagent, which here we make use in this Barfoed test in order to identify the carbohydrate or the type of carbohydrate we are having. And as I said, this particular test is exclusively answered by the monosaccharide, and because of this exclusiveness, this particular Barfoed test is used to differentiate monosaccharides from disaccharides. So procedurally in this test we are making we are boiling our sample under the interest with the Barfoed reagent for 2 minutes, and after 2 minutes if we are getting the red precipitate, this means that our sample contains the carbohydrate. So procedurally this test is very much similar to the Benedict test, and also not only the procedurally also but also the outcome in this particular test is similar to that of Benedict test, as in both the cases we are getting the red precipitate, and the appearance of the red precipitate in Barfoed test as well as in the Benedict test will confirms us the presence of carbohydrate. So let us look into the chemistry of this particular test, that is the Barfoed test. So from chemistry perspective, this test is also similar to that of Benedict test, as this is also based on the reduction of carbohydrate, and this test is ultimately be answered by the carbohydrates which are having the free aldehyde or the ketone group. So anyhow this test is somewhat similar from the chemical point of view or from the chemistry point of view, that this test is based on the reduction type reaction, and also the outcome in the test, that is the colorimetric outcome in this test, is the red formation of the red color, the red precipitate, which is also similar to that of Benedict test. So because of this basic chemistry platform as well as the colorimetric outcome, the overall similarity of this test is somewhat similar to that of Benedict test. However, the test differentiate from Benedict test, that is this Barfoed test differs from the Benedict test in the pH of the medium, or the pH of the reagent, or the pH of the solution which we are using for this particular test. So in the Benedict test, the pH of the medium is alkaline, as we are using the sodium carbonate. However, in the pH of this Barfoed test is acidic. And why it is acidic? This is due to the presence of acetic acid. So anyhow, the test, this Barfoed test differs from the Benedict test in the overall pH of the medium, where the pH of this Barfoed test is the acidic, and the pH of the medium for the Benedict test is alkaline. So this test is ultimately differs from or in this way this particular Barfoed test gets differ from the Benedict test. However, this Barfoed test have the similar outcome or the similar colorimetric outcome as compared to that of Benedict test. So as I said, this particular Barfoed test is answered by the monosaccharides exclusively, and because of this exclusive monosaccharide based colorimetric reaction, or the colorimetric reactions are exclusively be given by the monosaccharide, the Barfoed test is used to differentiate or distinguish the monosaccharide from disaccharide. So let us discuss the next test, that is the rapid furfural test. And this rapid furfural test, as its name indicate, this test will ultimately results in the formation of a pentacyclic ring, that is the furfural ring, as an outcome. And this particular appearance of or the yielding of this furfural ring will impart the color to the test. So this rapid furfural test is exclusively answered by the ketose sugar, for an example fructose. However, this rapid furfural test is useless for hexose sugar, for an example glucose. So as this test is exclusively answered by the ketose or the ketose sugar, this rapid furfural test is used to differentiate a ketose sugar from an aldose sugar. So let us look into the basic chemical platform for this rapid furfural test. So this rapid furfural test is based on the platform of dehydration reaction. Dehydration reaction means this test will results in the removal of a water molecule from the reactants. And how this dehydration reaction will occurs in this particular furfural test is because of the use of acid. So in this test we are making use of concentrated hydrochloric acid, and when we are comparing this concentrated hydrochloric acid in terms of its acidic strength with that of concentrated sulfuric acid, that is H2SO4, we here find out that the concentrated hydrochloric acid is a weak acid compared to sulfuric acid. And when we are making use of this particular acid, that is the concentrated hydrochloric acid, this acid will cause a readily dehydration of ketose sugar, then an aldose sugar, and hence it results in the formation of hydroxymethyl furfural ring. And when this hydroxymethyl furfural ring is get condensed with the alpha naphthol, this results in the formation or appearance of violet color, and appearance of this violet color will ultimately confirms us the presence of carbohydrate, basically or primarily the ketose type sugar in our sample. So anyhow, this test is used to differentiate primarily between a ketose sugar from an aldose sugar. So this furfural test or the rapid furfural test is basically used to differentiate a ketose sugar from an aldose sugar. And let us discuss the basic procedure behind this test is. So this test is also makes use of Mollis reagent, and earlier also I have discussed in the Mollis test that what ultimately the Mollis reagent is, or what is the chemical constituent of a Mollis reagent. So again I am here discussing the same one also here. The Mollis reagent is nothing but it is a mixture or a solution of alpha naphthol, that is 1 naphthol in 95% ethanol. So procedurally this rapid furfural test in this test we are anyhow exposing our sample to few drops of concentrated hydrochloric acid, and further we add few drops or the 0.5 ml of Mollis reagent, and heat our content to boil for a few minutes, and allow the content to allow to cool at the room temperature, and during its cooling there is a formation of violet color, and this appearance of the violet color will results in the will ultimately confirms that our sample contains a carbohydrate, and this carbohydrate is primarily is a ketose type sugar. So here also we can compare this rapid furfural test with that of with this Mollis test or alpha naphthol reaction. However, the difference in our both the test is that that in alpha naphthol reaction or in the Mollis test we are making use of the concentrated sulfuric acid, and here in case of this particular test, that is in case of this rapid furfural test, we are making use of concentrated hydrochloric acid. However, our outcome is the furfural ring, and basically here the furfural ring is formed readily by the ketose sugar, and because of the formation of this particular furfural ring and its concentration further with the alpha naphthol will results in the appearance of violet color. So anyhow, this is the procedural detail and how this particular reaction or this particular test is used for the qualitative estimation of carbohydrate, primarily the ketose type sugar in the given sample. The next test is Selye-Van Hoff's test, and this test is known as Selye-Van Hoff's test because this test makes use of Selye-Van Hoff's reagent. The Selye-Van Hoff's reagent is nothing but a mixture of resorcinol in dilute hydrochloric acid. So resorcinol in dilute hydrochloric acid is the chemical makeup of Selye-Van Hoff's reagent, which is ultimately be used for this particular test. And this Selye-Van Hoff's test is exclusively answered by ketose sugar. So anyhow, this test is also used to detect the presence or identification of ketose sugar in a sample. And what is the basic chemical platform behind this test is, or what is the basic chemistry of this particular test is. So this test is also based on the dehydration type reaction. That is, this test involves the removal of water molecule from the reaction. So as I said, the test is exclusively for the ketose sugar, and when the ketose sugar is exposed to hydrochloric acid, it rapidly get dehydrated in order to yield the hydroxymethyl furfural, and this hydroxymethyl furfural is further condensed with the resorcinol, which is the chemical makeup of Selye-Van Hoff's reagent, and upon condensation of this resorcinol with hydroxymethyl furfural, the final outcome is the red color reaction. So as I said, that hydrochloric acid rapidly dehydrate the ketose sugar, then an aldose sugar, and hence this test is exclusively be used for the identification of ketose rather than aldose. And the overall principle or the basic chemistry behind this test is the dehydration type reaction, and the dehydration is occur, that is the removal of water molecule is occur due to the presence of multiple hydroxy groups in the carbohydrate molecule. So let us discuss the further procedure or how this test is performed. So procedurally, in this test, the sample is exposed to the Selye-Van Hoff's reagent, and the Selye-Van Hoff's reagent is nothing but a mixture of resorcinol in dilute hydrochloric acid. So when this resorcinol in dilute hydrochloric acid is reacts with the sample, and after reaction the content is boiled for a few minutes, and after boiling there is an appearance of red color, and this appearance of red color will ultimately confirms the presence of carbohydrate in the sample, and that particular carbohydrate is a ketose type sugar. So let us discuss the next test, that is the Folger test. So this test is also used in order to determine or in order to identify the presence of ketose sugar in a sample. The reagent used in Fowler's test is the Fowler reagent, which is which comprises of three chemicals, that is stannous chloride, urea, and 40% sulfuric acid. So all these three agents are ultimately be responsible for the chemical constituent of Fowler reagent. Basically, principle involved in Fowler test is similar to Sullivan-Hoff's test, and this test also makes use of dehydration type reaction. Reaction means in this particular reaction the water molecules is get removed off, and why the water molecules is removed from the reaction is due to the presence of hydroxy group in the sugar moiety. So primarily, as I said, this particular test is meant to identify the keto sugar. So in this test also the dehydration is bring about by concentrated sulfuric acid, which is the main constituent of Fowler reagents. So anyhow, when concentrated sulfuric acid, that is the 40% sulfuric acid, when comes in contact with the keto sugar, it causes removal of water molecule, that is it causes the dehydration of the keto sugar, and hence results in formation of hydroxymethyl furfural ring. This hydroxymethyl furfural ring is a derivative of furfural, and once this hydroxymethyl furfural gets yielded in the reaction, this condense or combines with the stannous chloride so as to form deep blue color, and this appearance of the deep blue color is the basic or the main outcome of this reaction. And anyhow, if the reaction shows deep blue color, this indicates that the sample contains the carbohydrate. Principally, the nature of carbohydrate is a keto sugar. So this is the basic chemistry or the chemical platform behind the Fowler's test, and it is the dehydration reaction. Now let us discuss the procedural detail or the procedure required for identification of carbohydrate in Fowler's test. So the procedure is a bit similar, and it is also easier one. Here the sample under the test is reacted with Fowler's reagent, and the chemical constituent of Fowler reagent is stannous chloride, urea, and 40% sulfuric acid. So once these reagents or once this Fowler reagent is combined with the sample, the mixture is then allowed to boil for at least 45 to 50 seconds. And once boiled, the content is then further allowed to cool at room temperature, and during this cooling or even during at the end of boiling, there is appearance of deep blue color, and appearance or the presence of deep blue color indicates presence of carbohydrate, and the carbohydrate basically which is identified by the Fowler test is the ketose sugar. So this is how we can identify qualitatively the carbohydrate or the ketose sugar by Fowler's test. So I am going to discuss the next test, that is the Osazone test or the Osazone reaction. So this test makes use of Osazone crystal as a final outcome in order to determine the presence of carbohydrate in the sample. And this Osazone crystals are formed by using phenylhydrazine. So this Osazone test or the Osazone reaction is a unique test, or it is a unique reaction, as here in this case no color is formed as an outcome. Rather we are getting formation or appearance of crystal as a final outcome, and on the basis of appearance of crystal or on the basis of formation of crystal we are going to analyze the presence of carbohydrate in the sample. So anyhow, as I said, that this particular reaction will results or the basic outcome of this particular reaction is the appearance of crystals or Osazone, and these crystals are the needle shaped crystals. So anyhow, when these crystals are looked by eyes or via through microscope, we can find the shape of these crystals are needle in shape, and this needle shaped crystals is the basic, or it is the primary outcome of this particular reaction is. So let us discuss the basic chemistry or basic platform of this Osazone reaction or the Osazone test. So this Osazone test or the Osazone reaction is based on a chemical reaction between the carbohydrate and the phenylhydrazine. Primarily the reaction takes place at the carbonyl carbon, and after carbonyl carbon the reaction also takes place at the adjacent carbon. Adjacent means the carbon adjacent or the neighboring carbon of the phenyl carbon. So let us look into how this particular chemical reaction proceeds and what is its consequence, or what are the various steps involved in this particular reaction, that is the Osazone reaction. So I here represent a glucose molecule, and this R represent the further carbon atoms anyhow. This glucose initially reacts with the phenylhydrazine, and as I said that initial or primarily the reaction occurs at the carbonyl carbon. So once this phenylhydrazine reacts with the glucose molecule, as I depicted here by this chemical reaction, the carbonyl carbon atom, this phenylhydrazine gets reacted with the carbonyl carbon atom, and hence results in the formation of glucose phenyl hydrazone. And this glucose phenyl hydrazone is formed by reacting phenylhydrazine with glucose, and the reaction initially takes place at the carbonyl carbon atom, as you can see here. Once this glucose phenyl hydrazone is formed, then this glucose phenyl hydrazone again reacts with the two molecule of phenyl hydrazine, and results in the formation of glucosazone. Now the glucosazone is formed here by reaction between the two molecule of phenyl hydrazine, and these two molecules of the phenyl hydrazines are uh, uh, get reacted with the glucose phenyl hydrazone, and here the reaction takes place at the adjacent carbon atom. Adjacent carbon atom, I means the carbon atom next to the carbonyl carbon atom, initially at which the phenyl hydrazine molecule itself gets reacted. And once this particular reaction gets over, or this particular reaction will ultimately be results in the formation of glucosazone along with the byproduct such as aniline and ammonia. So this is the basic chemical reaction which takes place in the osazone reaction or the osazone test, and this particular reaction is ultimately be responsible for appearance of glucosazone glucosazone crystals, that is the needle shaped crystals which I discussed here, and these needle shaped crystals are ultimately be responsible for the outcome of the result, that is presence of carbohydrate in the sample. Procedure involved in osazone reaction includes combining the sample with phenyl hydrazine, and the content is further boiled for 15 to 45 minutes on boiling water bath. Once get boiled for the required time period, the content is allowed to cool at room temperature slowly. It must be noted that the boiled content or the hot content should not be cooled on ice bath, as it disturbs the yield of crystal, and hence when the cooling is slowly, a good yield of crystals can be achieved. So appearance of the crystals after cooling will confirm the presence of carbohydrate in the sample. So on the basis of different kind of sugar so present in the sample, or on the basis of different kind of carbohydrate present in the sample, and their overall time required for formation of crystals, will also gives us an idea regarding the nature of sugar or the carbohydrate present in the sample. For an example, if our sample contains the glucose, so in such a case the crystals are formed in 5 minutes, and in a case the sample contains fructose, the crystals are formed after 2 minutes. For galactose, the crystals are formed within 20 minutes, and if the sample contains mannose, so the crystal forms immediately. However, the crystals may take time, which is between 1 to 5 minutes. So on the basis of the time duration, on the basis of the time duration, we can anyhow rule out that what type of sugar or what kind of carbohydrate is present in our sample. So this is how we can anyhow identify or qualitatively identify the carbohydrate or the sugar present in our sample by osazone reaction. So let us discuss the last test for identification of carbohydrate. So this test is known as iodine test. and this iodine test is used to differentiate polysaccharides from other sugar. So the iodine test is exclusively for identification of polysaccharide, and anyhow, in a general sense, when polysaccharides comes in contact with the iodine solution, this results in the formation of blue color. So let us further discuss the chemistry behind the iodine test. So once the starch, or when the starch reacts with the iodine, starch is itself a polysaccharide. So when it comes in contact with the iodine, this combination of iodine with starch will result in the formation of adsorption type complex, as the iodine gets adsorbed on the starch, and due to such adsorption complex formation, this will result in the formation of blue color, and this blue color will ultimately the final outcome of the test, and which ultimately confirms that our sample will contains a carbohydrate or the sample contains a polysaccharide. So anyhow, when this adsorption complex is heated, this blue color gets disappear, and the color disappear as the adsorption complex which is formed is get broken down, and due to this particular reason, due to the broken or due to the breakage in this particular adsorption complex, the blue color gets disappeared. So anyhow, this is the basic chemical platform why when a polysaccharide or when the starch is get reacts with the uh, iodine solution, will results in the formation of blue color. So now further let us discuss the procedural detail for iodine test. So the procedure is quite a simple one. Here the sample is allowed to react with the iodine at the room temperature, and once the sample gets reacted, or once the sample, that is the polysaccharide, comes in contact with the iodine, this will result in the appearance of blue color, and this blue color will ultimately be confirms the presence of carbohydrate, or principally the presence of polysaccharide in the sample. So this is how by iodine test we can determine presence of polysaccharide or presence of carbohydrate in a given sample.